We're on the Mishnah. On the Mishnah. Perek Daled, fourth Perek, Mishnah 9. Okay, the Mishnah starts off as follows. Rabbi Yishmael Boinoi Omer, HaChoisech atzmai min adin, Poirik memenu eva, Begozel u'shvuos shav. A person who refrains themselves from judgment removes from themselves almost, it's an interesting, the word poirek, it's poirek oil is generally a terminology used for removing the yoke. Removing something heavy from amongst you. So a person that removes himself from judgment, removes from themselves or refrains themselves from judgment, removes from themselves ava. Ava is a sense of fighting, hatred. Gozel is theft or robbery. Shvuos shav, and shvuos shav is swearing deceitfully. Okay, so essentially, if you look at the Mishnah on a very actual superficial level, it's just saying avoid from being an individual that gets involved overly in court cases and judgments. If you're a judge and there are better judges to be involved, you should step away. But as we've understood, the Pirkei Avos is to really shape us as individuals and shape our attributes as people. So what are we meant to learn here? If I'm not a judge, what are we meant to learn here from don't be a judge or remove yourself from judgment? Yeah. So with Avodas Yisrael, the Kozhnitzer Rebbe brings that this Mishnah is teaching us a very important principle. And that is a principle called being a kaptan or an istanis. A kaptan or an istanis is someone that's very particular. And one of their favorite hobbies, not even a hobby, it's even more than that. It's their mentality, their outlook on life. First thing they do, they wake up and they enter into this framework of mind. And the last thing they do before they go to sleep is this. And what is that? To judging, constantly judging everything. Everything's being judged. Yeah? This is bad. This is like this. This is like that. I don't feel like doing this. Can't believe this person did that. Is a state of judgment, constantly judging, constantly experiencing life within a judgmental framework, a mindset that is always judging circumstances. And generally, the way that the judgment comes out is guilty. Yeah? Everything's guilty. That life is guilty. Things aren't good enough for me. And we, or those individuals that fall into this circumstance of judgment, which is very, very it's quite natural for us to be doing these things, is to always judge and see and come out with a state of guilty. And the Mishnah here is teaching us, HaChoisech atzmai min adin. Refrain yourself from that innate, natural state of being judgmental, and it's not even on people. It's just on circumstances in life. Judging things constantly, as opposed to engaging with things without that judgment. Actually being present without being so overly cognitive or overly conceptual within one's mind in terms of their engagement with their circumstance or what's in front of them. Instead of thinking, this, just be there without any judgment. Just be present without judgment. And if a person does that, it says that they remove from themselves hatred, What type of hatred are you removing from yourself? Well, if you think about what the judgment is, it's an avenue to hate. It's the hatred that's within us. We love to hate. And if it's not hating people, we love to hate circumstances. We love to hate the temperature of our coffee, or we love to hate the food that we eat if it's not good enough. We love to hate the state of our bodies if we're not comfortable enough. We love to hate the weather. We love to hate, And the concept here is stop judging and then stop hating. Yeah, Philip, I knew you were going to ask that. Philip asked why. Yeah. So let's see. And then the next thing is gozel. You'll remove from yourself robbery. You know what robbery you're removing from yourself? The robbery of life. And you know who the thief is? You yourself. So if you remove judgment from the circumstance, then you're removing robbery or theft, because you're stealing your own life from yourself by coming along and saying, oh, not to my standards, not to my standards. If it's not to your standards, then you're not actually galvanizing the circumstance at all. You've completely switched off from your life if it's not to your standards. And if you're judging everything and you're so subsumed by that judgment, well, then I can't enjoy life because I'm constantly judging. But we trick ourselves and we say, no, we're going to enjoy it more if we judge it more. And then we're going to get it to its perfect circumstance in the future, and then everything's going to be okay. That's the trick. It's not. If you can't break out of this system, if you can't break out of this mentality, you will never break out of judgment. It just gets worse and worse and worse and worse until you get to this old age of decrepitcy and just judgmental approach to everything. And that's life. And it's just not enjoyable at all, unless if an individual shifts that mentality and says, no more judgments, whatever it is, I'm not judging anymore my life. I'm going to absorb the circumstance without judgment. I'm going to be present in the circumstance without judgment. It's not to say that you stop acting and you're just a robot and then you just do whatever. It's just saying, okay, the coffee's not hot enough. Well, okay, am I going to over-exacerbate that and judge it and say, or am I just going to enjoy it? And maybe you'll find out that you actually are enjoying it, instead of complicating the situation by over-judging it. So that's the two things that we remove from ourselves. First thing is hatred. We love to hate, love it. And the second thing is gozel, robbery. You're robbing yourself of life through judgment. Ushvuas shav. Shvuas shav is a false oath. Strange. So if we're talking about in the context of the courts, well, we understand if there's going to be a false judgment, or if there's going to be a judge there that isn't proficient in proper judgment, then it's going to lead to an unnecessary oath. And that's a really bad thing. But when I was thinking about this Mishnah, I was thinking there's another place that we speak about a false oath. And we say, Mi ya'aleh b'har Hashem, who is able to ascend the mountain of God, which means who is able to ascend into a state of spiritual connection, of hindsight, of foresight, of more of a holistic living. Who is that? A person, it says, Shaloi yashav nafshi, that he doesn't swear deceitfully. Strange. Out of all of the things that a person can do to enter into a higher spiritual consciousness, all they need to do is not to swear deceitfully. So Rav Soloveitchik asks this question, and he says what it's actually a reference to is to the oath that we make in our mother's womb. That when we were all children in our mother's womb, we all made an oath. And that oath was to be our best. That oath was to tap into our potential and allow that potential to manifest. That's the oath that we made. And it says that we all tapped on our upper lip when born, and we forget that oath. But that oath is essentially intrinsically made up into our makeup. And what we're understanding here is that the more judgmental a person is, and again, it's not judging people only, it's judging life, overly judgmental of life. The more a person is judgmental and doesn't refrain themselves from judging constantly, not only are they going to be usurped by that of hatred, by that of theft, but they'll also fall into the circumstance of making a false oath. And that is, the essence of spirituality is humility, and humility is acceptance. And this is coming to your question there, Philip. Very eloquently phrased. Why? So the concept here of why is it that we are like this is because the essence of spirituality is humility. But the enemy of humility is judgment, is saying, this is not good enough for me. For a humble person, for a person that's not usurped by the ego, they're okay. Whatever situation that Hashem gives them, they're going to absorb it and be totally present and understand that beyond the external circumstances, there's an experience of life. And that experience of life is an experience of God. And thus, to them, that's the most amazing experience. It doesn't even matter to them what's happening around. If you think about, a situation, maybe when it was first you met the love of your life, for everyone, their spouse, or if you don't have a spouse, the love of your life, whatever it is, that first moment, and you're really engaging a deep level. And David Rose, you still have this deep level of experience and engagement with Naomi. So that deep level of engagement and experience, the circumstances around you don't even matter as much because you're so subsumed by the person. It's such a beautiful experience. It doesn't even matter, what's around you. You're experiencing that person in such a deep, beautiful way. The conversation is just so amazing, you almost lose track of time. And that's the concept here, that when a person is struck by the awe and the experience and the connection with the essence of what is in every moment, that's only accessed through humility, only ever accessed through humility, letting go of the self. Then a person is able to really tap into their spiritual potential. That's what the spiritual potential is. But the more abrasive they are and the more judgmental they are to every circumstance, not good enough, this is not good enough, this is annoying me, and this is not how I want it to be, and this person didn't do this, and this is not like that, then essentially we are robbing ourselves from life. We are tapping ourselves out of our spiritual potential, and we are entering into a state of hatred, loving to hate. That hatred is the autopilot of life. Okay, so when we are not tapped into our spiritual essence and our vacuum isn't being filled with the nutritious substance of life, of the essence of godliness, of spirituality, then the vacuum needs to be filled with something else. And it gets filled with a pussy substance called ava, hatred. And that's where the ego, instead of consuming the nutrients or being starved of the nutrients, it's now filled with a pus called hatred. Okay, that's what happens when there's that vacuum of spirituality, which is essentially a pocket of existence called the ego, which is a vacuum, and it gets filled with ava, gets filled with hatred. So the second part of the Mishnah, says, "V'hagas liboy b'hoira shoite rasha v'gas ruach." And a person who's gas liboy. What's gas liboy mean? Gas liboy means who is thick of heart. Gas means a thickness. And a thick of heart means a heart, we know, is essentially associated with one's emotions, but it's also the seat really of that hatred, that ego that we like. you know, and it's like a balloon. It's this thick membrane of egoic substance that it sort of encroaches and encapsulates a person, and then they get filled with this ego, and now, I want to judge everything. So you'll see this generally either in oneself or in their circumstance around them. The more egoic you are, the more you would like to pass judgment on things. So if you go to a restaurant, the favorite thing about that experience is what was wrong, okay? How it wasn't brought on time, it wasn't fast enough, the service wasn't good enough, the flavor was horrible, the chocolate wasn't melted enough, it was off, it was too on, whatever it is, the circumstance it falls into a state of judgment. Loves, he loves to judge, yeah? Every person they engage with, it's always precipitated by a judgment, yeah? What do you think of that person? Nice person, not a nice person? You know what the experience should be with a person? No judgment at all. There is no judgment when you're engaging with another person. Just engage without any judgment. Yeah, you want to ask someone, okay, what did you think? Okay, maybe you can come up with something. But in the experience of being with that person, no judgment, no hurrah, no specific judgment. Now, it says that if a person is gas liboy, if they're actually trapped by this thick membrane around the heart, they're referred to as a shoiter. A shoiter. A shoiter is a fool, someone who's stupid. A rasha is someone who is wicked, and a gas ruach is a person that is arrogant, or gas ruach is really a ruach we spoke about as one's emotions. So what does this mean? A shoiter. So we know that it says a person only sins when they're struck with something called a ruach shtus. A ruach shtus is a spirit of folly. Okay, good question. Ken asks, what about positive judgment? Yeah, good. Let's get into that. Let's just finish off this part of the Mishnah. So shtus, ruach shtus, which is a spirit of folly. And understanding what a spirit of folly is they're actually somewhat blinded. That's what a spirit of folly is. They're blinded to life. Yeah, everyone knows when they've got a spirit of folly inside of themselves. You're just like, you're really not tapped in. It's just like whatever it is around you, you're just not mentally, emotionally tapped in. The best thing to do when you have a spirit of folly is go to sleep, and wake up and be a bit more refreshed. Yeah. If you've already slept enough, then go learn some Torah. Or exercise, if you can. But it's generally at those periods of time that you can't do anything. You don't feel like exercising, you don't feel like learning. Yeah, so go sleep. That's the best thing to do when you have a spirit of folly. But you are a fool. That's essentially what a fool is. You're walking around blinded by nothingness, by a ruach shtus, a spirit of folly. A rasha is a person who's evil. A rishus. But evil, we know, is someone that is essentially detached from the essence, from goodness. So they're really self-exacerbating the experience of the ego. And that is they're detaching themselves from God. As we said, ego is edging God out. That is what is rishus. That is what a wickedness is in a person's life. The gas ruach is now they're entrapped by their emotion. Okay, so they're stuck in this perpetual, potpourri of negativity and evil and infection, yeah. And that's all stemming from one simple framework and mentality called judging. Okay, so whenever you find that little voice inside the head starting to creep up, and then starting to look at situations and saying, oh, wow, got my judging hone in there. And it's checking out, what am I going to judge? What am I going to hone into? then you can understand where it's coming from and understand it's one of the most negative, dangerous frameworks to enter into, and you need to be very careful, okay? Conversely, and this was Kenny's question, and that is, what about judging positively? What about saying, wow, amazing, really, really special, really amazing circumstance. What, I'm so thankful for this. I'm so thankful that person. What about that, you know? And really, that's the essence of what it means to be a Yehudi. A Yehudi comes from the word hoida'ah. Hoida'ah means to thank. Hoida'ah means to be moide. Moide means to admit or tap in or say, I like this. And that's what it means, the essence of a Jew. Now, it's funny because you don't look at most Jews in that way. Most Jews are subsumed by the judgmental frameworks of life. That's what a Jew is generally, no? So what we're learning here is that our deeper essence is a state of totally being happy and totally being hoida, positive within the circumstances, and looking for what to be proud of, looking to be what to be happy with. Now, still, I think the question that Kenny's asking is once you enter into that framework of judging even positively, it's now dangerous, because now you can get into the framework of judging negatively. So try also experience life without any conceptual judgment. It is all good. There's no bad, all good. It just is. That's what life is. Try enter into that without actually looking even for the positive, understanding that by saying that something's positive, it means that there's something negative, potentially. But if a person realizes there's no positive or negative, just stop judging, just stop entering into life through that judgmental framework and lens, then we understand that we can galvanize the nutrients of life to a much deeper framework, a much more nutritious circumstance. And this is the teaching of the Mishnah that Rabbi Shmuel came to teach us. Benoi, separate yourself from din. Separate yourself from that word din, judgment. Remove yourself from being a judge within those circumstances of life. Okay? Any questions, final questions?
Rabbi, good morning, everybody. Just to bring it to, for a practical example, must you not be judgmental of politicians and their ability to make the right decisions and to do the right thing?
Well, if you think about it, what difference is your judgment going to make? You know, what are you actually experiencing through that judgment? So if you can make a difference about something, well, you can judge it and then engage with it. You know, but that's what it means. A machlokas l'shem shamayim, an argument for the sake of heaven. Every time you're entering into a state of judgment, ask yourself, is it for the sake of heaven? Meaning, is it for the sake of something tachlis, something real, something that I can actually shift or change or implement, and not just for the emotional vexation of boredom, of lack of self-identity, of emptiness, that a person wants to fill their experience with a sense of self through that empty, pussy, poisonous experience of hatred and judgment and being bereft of spiritual energy. That's what we're seeing there. So, okay, you want to judge a politician for what? I mean, what is it going to do for you? You're going to make his life feel better? What? Yeah, you're going to make yourself feel better for a moment, but then you're going to be subsumed by that infection. It's a Trojan horse of negativity. And that's why you'll see in Judaism the elements of judging favorably are fundamental in that framework, because judging favorably is essentially the most spiritual mentality and calibrated setting that a person can have. And it's not, again, only judging favorably in people, it's judging favorably in life. Actually, not even judging is the highest level. Nothing to judge. I'm just living. I'm doing what I need to do. And again, it's not saying that you stop thinking. You can think, you can definitely think. You actually think better when you're not clouded by this ruach shtus, by the emotional negativity that's there to try and nitpick and at unnecessary things. But you can actually think properly now. Wow, now I can think about really meaningful things, and I can really engage with life in a deeper way where I'm not tapped out. So I think, yeah, judging the politician is most likely a vexation of empty spirit, and
getting rid of your frustrations.
well,
But,
it's not, it's just
in other words,
exacerbated.
in other words, judge if you could do something about it, or if you're going to try and do something about it, and then engage.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're wasting your time, and you're just creating ill will within yourself.
Yes, exactly. Now, there is an interesting concept, and that is it lashon hara, is a negative speech. If you speak to someone, generally it's brought down as your wife, to unpack something that's been very, almost you've got an energy that's stuck inside of you. Yeah, you've been affected by something, and you really have a pocket of pus that's developed there, spiritual pus, and the only way to let it go is to pop it out, and all of that negativity it just flows out. Yeah. So now, if a person is doing it, and you have to be very careful with this, and it's generally only with their spouse, you can't use this concept to just say, I'm going to go to anyone and just, spill my pus onto them. And that's really infecting other people with this negativity. But if a person is really struck by something, they're really upset about something, and their intentions is not to harm the other, their intentions is not to just spiritually vex the negativity and engage with that emptiness, but they're really hurt, okay? And that really needs to be understood properly. And then they speak to their spouse and they say, I'm just so frustrated. This is my circumstances. I'm really upset about this, that this person did this, whatever it is. To let go, it's almost deflating that balloon. There is an aspect of that. And what we're learning here is not to ignore the energies that are inside of us. It's just to be careful how we engage with it. Okay, so sometimes if a person's feeling sad or feeling upset or feeling really not good, okay, allow that energy there to be deflated, take it out, remove that energy however you need to. If it's talking to someone, amazing. Talk to them about your frustrations. Talk to them about how you're feeling. And it needs to be within the context of really building rather than destroying. So if you're talking to a professional or you're talking to your spouse or whatever it is, but to then come to your friends and just say, oh, I'm so frustrated about this person. I hate this person, this and that, and then you've entered into, now I feel a sense of self. I feel a sense of me. Then that's dangerous. That's the very fine red line that needs to be very careful. And that's why most people will never say this to you. They'll just say never, ever, ever speak negatively, even to your spouse. Okay, but what I'm saying here is, number one, it's not about ignoring. If you're upset about something, it needs to be dealt with. The way to deal with it is generally not to exacerbate it. Most people say you shouldn't go to sleep if you're fighting with your spouse. Don't go to sleep until you resolve the fight, or if you're fighting with someone. Truthfully, the Torah says, no, go to sleep, wake up the next day, and then resolve it, because you'll see the emotions have settled. You're not so emotionally, wound up, and now you can deal with it better. And that's what it's saying here. If you can let go and not deal with it and exacerbate it, and be, then do it that way. That's much better. But on a simple level, what we're dealing with is a general day-to-day engagement with life. Okay, you wake up in the morning and you've got a number of tasks to fulfill. You've got a number of things you need to do for work. You've got a number of things that you need to accomplish. So the general framework of the mind is, about so many things I need to do. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that one. I got to do all of these things. What we're learning here is remove yourself from judgment. Remove yourself from that judgment, which means just do it. Whatever you need to do without judgment. You got a list of things, start doing it without actually judging it in any way. Just get it done. Start engaging with it. Enjoy the experience without the judgment of negativity. And you'll actually see it's quite beautiful. It's quite an enjoyable experience. The experiences that you thought were going to be horrible, you're actually in it and you're like, it's not so bad. I actually quite enjoy this, without the judgment in my head constantly saying, blah, 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 blah. It's quite enjoyable then. Yeah. So that's the teaching here. Let's see.
Like the housework we have to do at the moment.
Yes, enjoy that housework. And that's, Kenny said, every decision is based on judgment. Every decision in life is based on choice, and choice is based on judgment. So, yes, Kenny, what we're understanding here and differentiating is there's a difference between emotional judgment, okay, and what we refer to as the judgment of the seichel. The seichel is the spiritual intellect, which is really unaffected by negativity. So you wake up in the morning, you need to make a decision. Do I do this task or do I do that task? Great, that's a decision, that's a judgment that needs to be made. But what we're understanding here is remove the energy of hatred from that judgment. Remove the negative emotion from that judgment, what we're referring to as gas ruach. A gas ruach is that emotional thickness that a person's coming to say, now I've got this task. So what's going to promote or motivate that judgment or choice? I hate that. I hate that. It's like a real emotional negativity that's inside of a person. It's stuck inside of us, like a pain body, a negativity that just wants to come out and be judgmental about it. That's the difference. Don't put on your judge hat. I'm going to now present my opinion on life, on this person, on how this is, on how my circumstance is. That's different to making choices. Okay, there's a difference between judging and making choices, and that's what we're learning here. Remove oneself from the attribute or the framework or the mentality of being a judge. There's nothing for you to judge. Nothing. Hashem did not create you to be judgmental about anything. Don't judge other people. In fact, don't even judge yourself. Okay? Make choices. Choices is much more healthier than judgments. Okay? When a person says, I'm such a wicked person, or I'm such a tzaddik, I'm such a righteous person. No, both of those are wrong. Just make choices. That's it. No negativity about self, or no over inundation with the self. Just choices. That's a healthy way of engaging with life, and that's really one of the most spiritually important frameworks that we're learning here from the teaching of Rabbi Shmuel Benoy. All right, gentlemen and lady, we'll rendezvous. And lovely to see you all, lovely to be with you. And those who want to join us at 12 for some Gemara learning, you are invited to do so. Any final questions or comments or statements before we depart? All right, lots of bracha.